Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We welcome you, whatever time and wherever in the world you are listening. We are pleased you have found us. You are now listening to Inside the Bunghole, a podcast taking you on a journey through wine. Together, we will learn more about this wonderful elixir of life. So raise your glass to welcome your hosts and partners in wine, Pam and James. You are now Inside the Bunghole.
Well, we have a fun edition of Inside the Bunghole today. I want to do some housekeeping notes first. I want to give a shout out to our listeners who are faithful listeners. We have some that are in all the way from Frankfurt, Germany.
Yeah.
Write us a letter. Tell us who you are, please. And then I want to give a special shout out to Daniel and Briggs' little baby, Theo. I know you guys are listening. I love you. Okay.
You done?
I'm done with my shout outs. We're sitting here with Mark Stone, who is partnered with Sosa at Tia Carmen's in Indian Wells, which is where we are.
Indian Wells.
But tell me where some of the other restaurants you have are.
Yeah, well, so Angelo and I are partners in many ventures, including where we are right now at the Grand Hyatt in Indian Wells, where we got beautiful Tia Carmen and our more casual and bar concept called Carmucha. And then we also have two restaurants in Phoenix at the JW Marriott Desert Ridge. Another Tia Carmen, the first Tia Carmen, and a restaurant called Kambaro, which is Southeast Asian cuisine with a little bit of influence from Japan, particularly on the beverage side, and other parts of East Asia. And then I'm also a partner in a restaurant called Makoto, Vail, which is at the Grand Hyatt in Vail, Colorado, and Night Italian Steak at the Ritz-Carlton Las Colinas in Dallas.
It's pretty impressive. Boys are just busy at it.
Oh, and of course, Armand and James are, as always, are here with me. But now, Sosa, everybody who's a foodie will know he's Top Chef Plum.
Yeah, wonderful chef. We've been friends for many years. Both of us lived in New York for a long time. I spent most of my life actually in New York, but moved to the West Coast, been in LA for almost 10 years now. Very happily.
Did you know him before the show or before you went on?
Yes, well before that. I don't even want to say how many years it is because you think he was only 12 when we.
He is,
but he was actually already an accomplished chef. But it was probably 18, 19 years ago we met in New York. And he's got an incredible background. At that point, he'd already worked several years for Jean-Georges. He'd been the opening chef at the original Spice Market restaurant in New York. Had worked for Alain Ducasse in Europe for a couple of years. Great guy. We kept in touch and coincidentally happened to end up on the West Coast around the same time. I guess he came maybe a year or two after I did. And so now we're both happy Southern Californians. And we're lucky enough to be able to have this restaurant where we are today, right in our backyard in the desert in Indian Wells.
You guys just got a crazy award. Please tell.
Well, I don't know how crazy it is, but in the wine world, it's a nice award. We've got it's the One Bottle Award. I think it's called the Award of Excellence from Wine Spectator. I'm pleased to say that we got that award here. Each of our restaurants in Phoenix also got that award, as well as the restaurant, my restaurant in Vail, and we got the 2-bottle award in Dallas.
And that basically means that your wine list has been selected as outstanding.
Yes. So you apply to Wine Spectator and they decide whether they deign to give you that award. But it's a very nice thing to have. Usually the One Bottle Awards have a minimum of 100 to 120, 150 different labels on there. list. I think they appreciated because we've had a little contact with Wine Spectator beforehand. In fact, even before giving us the award, which was unusual, they were nice enough to print a little piece about what we were doing here shortly after we opened. And I think they appreciate the breadth of the list, but also the focus in a few different areas. And then given the Southwestern theme of the restaurant, we have a very deep agave list as well, quite a large number of tequilas and mezcals. And so I think they also, while officially they're only looking at the wine, they appreciate the breadth of beverage opportunities. For example, in our Southeast Asian restaurant, we have a very, very large selection of Asian spirits.
I know that we've just read something about in Phoenix that you guys were out sourcing your produce, sourcing your
The farmers.
for the local market. Did you do the same thing here in the Coachella?
Absolutely. So we like to, Angela and I in particular, before we open restaurants, we really like to spend time traveling. And there are kind of two reasons that we do that travel. One is to get inspiration for the travel, even if it's not something that we're exactly going to be doing in the restaurant. You get inspiration by traveling, by meeting people, by tasting food that's related to what we're going to do. So, for example, our Asian restaurant, we spent quite a lot of time traveling all around Asia, even though both of us had spent extended amounts of time in Asia prior to that. I guess one of the reasons why we wanted to do that kind of a restaurant. But we did fresh trips, spent several weeks, a couple of different occasions, traveling around East Asia, going to numerous restaurants a day.
Sucks.
It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of wear and tear in the body. Believe me, when you've tasted 40 or 50 dishes in a day,
Oh boy.
you have to really pace yourself, and I try to run every morning and stuff. And so we did the same thing prior to opening Tia Carmen in Phoenix, traveling around Arizona, New Mexico, and throughout Mexico as well. Even though it's not a Mexican restaurant, Southwestern, obviously years ago, before we had borders, it was all, everybody were cousins, let's say. And so to really understand Southwestern cuisine, you have to understand something about Mexican cuisine. So that was a long way of getting to your original question about producers and so forth, but they're related. So in those travels, we also visited many farms, ranches, and so forth. So when it came to time to open here, in Indian Wells, we're blessed to be in Southern California and at stone's throw from the greatest and most diverse concentration of farms, anywhere in the country, certainly. So, we've got the farms right here in the Coachella Valley, where we get quite a lot of product throughout the year, as well as up and down California. So almost all of our produce, I would say pretty much all of our produce, comes either from right here in the Coachella Valley, or we buy it generally from the farmers market in LA, the Santa Monica Farmers Market. And we have certain producers that we work with, and we're so lucky and blessed here in Southern California because, within a few hours of here, I don't know how many microclimates there are, with just this incredible, fantastic range of produce. And then similarly, we try to source our meats from carefully selected ranches, and our seafood, again, being right on the Pacific coast, also not that far from the Sea of Cortez. That's primarily where our seafood comes from as well.
Well, I've been here and the food's amazing. Why don't we take a quick break and we'll talk. James has a question, I know. He's been holding his tongue. He's been so patient. So we'll be right back to talk more.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!
Thanks for sticking around. Listen to our commercial break, and we are back here with Mark Stone. And James, I know you had something you wanted to ask.
I was going to ask Mark, how do you define your brain? Is it business? Is it, art, getting a designer, working with a chef? Like, how do you find your niche? How do you find your place?
That is a great question.
When you step over that line, and
Yeah, well, I probably step over a lot of lines all the time, but I come at it from the business side. So hospitality, I've been doing it for 20 years, more than 20 years now, but it's a second career for me. So I had a business background before that, so I definitely come at it from the business side, and started partnering with chefs. And what I brought, I think, to the table was the business experience, both international and domestic. So certainly that's something I'm very, very much focused on. But I've always loved wine before I was in this business. So I always had a passion for it. So I'm lucky enough that I get to incorporate that in what I do. And I also very much enjoy being in the creative part of the business as well. So when it comes to things like the design of the restaurant, selecting the glassware, concepting the restaurant. Obviously, that's in close partnership with the chef, and the chef is the one, Angelo here, who's also got an incredible creative mind, as well as incredible skills as a chef. So he's the driver behind the food, but we talk a lot about what the direction should be, how the menu should be structured, and so forth.
if you ever snipped around a town or a city when, I don't think this is the right restaurant or the right place, and just pull out before you got called?
Just by sniffing around, maybe?
Yeah, many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've spent a lot of time over the years looking at different places, and either opportunities that came to me. Somebody say, "Hey, would like you to consider leasing this space or entering into a partnership or something like that." And so you always have to do your due diligence in that location. And even when the markets that we're really, really interested in, you still have to, understand what's going on in that market.
It's tough, man. Here in the Valley, I've seen a lot of restaurants go, and then someone comes right back in that building space, and they jackhammer, change it. It might have like an Asian theme before that. Then they're making it, the Cuban cafe or something, and then that goes, and someone's right behind them, and they're changing it into something totally different.
Yeah, and some locations are cursed.
There is not true.
Even in good markets.
So have you ever had a location and been like, yes, you didn't question at all, you just went for it? Have you ever had that situation? Because I don't ever see anybody doing that, but because, being in the restaurant business, you have to do there's so many factors.
There's so many factors.
But sometimes it could be that one you're like, yes.
Yeah, you always have to be skeptical and look at, certainly, my business mind is always like, well, let's look at all the things that is the reasons why it might not work, and so forth. I'd have to think about it. Yeah, there's probably one or two locations where I said, yeah, this is just a slam dunk. There's no way this isn't going to be successful, and just because of the history and the things that were around it, right, and so forth. But most of the time, it's really difficult to make that kind of a of a judgment. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I like having restaurants in hotel. I mean, I've had many restaurants in hotels, outside of hotels, all different kinds of situations. Right now, I'm heavily focused on hotels. Also have some projects on cruise ships that I didn't mention. But one of the reasons why I like being in hotels is while we build our restaurants to really try to attract local business and be successful local restaurants and not be viewed as a hotel restaurant. And the reason why hotel owners want us in those places because they don't want an ordinary hotel restaurant. You still have the benefit of the traffic that's in the hotel.
Yeah.
I think it gives you way more credibility with the hotel guests if you're viewed as a successful local restaurant that happens to be in the hotel.
Yes.
Then they really want to go.
Well, and you guys have done that beautifully here. I know so many locals, and we're kind of a weird market as far as like if you're not doing it right, we ain't gonna support you. And so you guys are doing it right. The service here is impeccable. The food is impeccable.
Where did you find your love for wine? It was before the restaurant business, but
Yeah,
in financial, that what you were doing?
I was involved in international business, a lot of it finance related, project finance. I spent a lot of time overseas. But I actually I mean, my parents drank wine a little bit, so I had some minor exposure to it. But really, believe it or not, in college. So I am old enough that when I was in college in Boston, the drinking age was 18.
Please tell us what college that was.
And that was Harvard College in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I had one of my best friends in college at that time was passionate about wine. And he was like, I'm going to go into the wine business after college. In fact, he did. In fact, he had a summer job working for Marvin Shankin in the early days of Marvin Shankin's empire. And he said, we should start a wine tasting club in the dormitory, called them houses where we lived. And he found 2 graduate students who were associated with our house who were real wine experts. I mean, it's almost like a stereotype. One of the guys was like just this Renaissance man. He was getting a PhD in sociology, and he was he'd been a world-class athlete in college. He played the violin. He had a great palate for wine, incredibly deep knowledge. And then another guy who was a classics graduate student, had gotten his master's degree. He was getting a PhD at Harvard, but he's gotten his master's degree at Oxford, and he'd been on the wine tasting team at Oxford. I didn't know there was a wine tasting team. He drank a different bottle of wine for 90 days in a row in order to, get his palate in shape for these and they would have competitions against other universities and, blind tastings. And we did not have that. But these 2 guys were real authorities. And the guy who was a classics grad student, his name was Bob Wallace. Maybe Bob is listening to this.
Yeah.
He worked in a wine store, I think, to make a little bit of extra money, but probably mostly to support his habit, and was able to procure wines for us at very, very favorable prices. So I don't remember now what we paid, but it really wasn't very much. Even at that time, it wasn't very much money. And we had about 8 or 9 sessions, and we tasted several wines. And the 2 of them, they had copies of notes from Hugh Johnson's, book, and they talked us through everything. And it's funny, a couple of years ago, I found some of my notes from some of those tastings, and I was looking at the wine, and I was like, wow, those were some really good wines we were tasting. No wonder I like this stuff. There's like Gevrey Chambertin, and like
You hadn't at the time,
I mean, I learned about it, but yeah, it was really great. So I really became kind of enamored with wine then, and one of the guys who was in this, the roommate of the guy I mentioned, whose idea it was, one of the guys who was also in this wine tasting group, he lived in the suburbs of Boston, and his father was a big wine collector, had a very, very, very nice cellar. And every once in a while, his parents would invite, a few of his friends, over to dinner. So, of course, college students, chance to go to somebody's home for a nice dinner, your home cooked meal. That was an automatic yes. And his parents were absolutely the loveliest people. And his dad loved to pull stuff from this cellar.
Well, we're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!
Okay.
That's great. It feels like a movie.
Uh-oh. Do we want to chit chat for a minute first? Oh my gosh. Yeah, Harvard. And that is so Harvard. That is so,
we used to meet in the we used to have a table in what they call the lower common room. It looked like something out of Harry Potter, the room where we had our tastings and stuff.
You guys took it serious.
We did.
There was nothing not serious there, Haida.
No, there was plenty that was serious. There was plenty of serious. I also we won't talk about this, but I started a cigar club too, and that was kind of a goof, because you could reserve this sort of private dining room in the dining hall.
Yeah.
So all the dorms, we call them houses, had their own dining rooms, and there would be like one crazy thing after another that somebody was reserving, and we're standing in line in the dining hall looking at this and chatting with friends and saying, yeah, we should do something. What's the most obnoxious thing that we could possibly do, as only sophomores with sophomore sense of humor would think. And we're like, oh, yeah, let's do a cigar club. I didn't even smoke cigars at the time, but a couple of guys were like, hey, I really like cigars. And there was this old school tobacconist in Harvard Square, and we got them to sponsor it. And so we had another room for it, pre the days when, smoking was banned everywhere.
Yeah.
But we had a separate room, and I still like, I don't chain smoke them or anything, but I still really like cigars. And that's where I got introduced to them. So wine and cigars.
So we've been sitting here talking to Mark Stone, who is a restaurateur extraordinaire, and is this one of the newer, or what do you work?
This is definitely one of the newer restaurants. We just opened just about a year ago, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, almost exactly a year ago.
What's coming up in the future?
Can't talk about it yet. Nothing that's been publicly announced. We got various projects in the work, and you will be the first to know.
There you go.
I do want to know, how does your wine list come together? What is that process like? In some of your restaurants, I'm sure it's different in one.
Yeah, to me, it's very important that we have a high quality wine list. And I don't really like this word, but I'm going to say it anyway. A serious wine list, but I don't mean serious like we're taking ourselves too seriously. But just that it's a well chosen wine list that has something for everybody. Yeah, who's likely to come into the restaurant. and that we can cater to people who don't know too much, but we can provide great introductions to wine. And then, if somebody's a real serious wine person, they can come in and say, "Oh, gee, there's some like pretty good stuff on this on this list," and I think we do a pretty good job of that. And then we also want to think about the cuisine and the market that we're in. So number one, we have to have wines on the list that we think pair well with our cuisine. So Tia Carmen being a Southwestern restaurant, contemporary Southwestern, there's a range of different types of food, but a lot of it has spice and strong flavors. So we want things that are going to go well with those wines. But we also have, things from raw fish to steaks with bone marrow butter. So obviously, most people are going to want to drink a different wine with those two items. So we start kind of with the cuisine and then looking at the market. What do we think is going to be appealing to people? So, for example, around here, I think Napa Cab is very much appreciated. So we wanted to make sure that we had a really strong representation of Napa and other cabs from California. And then, have a balance in the list. And like I was saying, for the cuisine, things that you may not see on every list, but wines like Gruner Veltliner or Riesling that are going to, pair very well with the spice, sparkling wine and so forth.
We're having a rosé right now
We are.
that you pulled for us. We are. And I know that's popular in the hot desert.
Yeah, it's definitely popular in the desert. And I love this particular rosé. So this is called Boro Rosa from Il Boro Winery in Tuscany. This winery is owned by the Ferragamo family.
It doesn't smell like shoes.
Yeah. Well, it does. Although in some of the red wines, you might get a little bit of leather.
Maybe.
You might get a little bit of leather, but and so Salvatore Ferragamo, who is the grandson, namesake of the founder of Ferragamo, runs Il Boro. He runs the hospitality business for the family, and it's located on the grounds of a medieval village called Il Boro that they've restored and turned into a 5-star Relais Chateau hotel. It's beautiful. Anybody who's thinking about a vacation in Tuscany, I highly recommend going to this property. It's a wonderful property. They've got a lovely restaurant on premises. More importantly, for the purposes of our discussion, they make some beautiful wines, including this very reasonably priced rosé, which is 100% Sangiovese, and it's really lovely. They have a couple of things that are kind of interesting. They've embraced their location. They also have a rosé sparkling wine that's 100% Sangiovese, which is absolutely delicious. And I highly recommend their whole line of wines. I recently did a wine dinner with them.
Getting back to your wine list, how important is it also have some affordable wines?
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to have a full range. We don't want people to be intimidated by the list. So we have very, very reasonably priced wines, wines that are, on the list for, $40, $50, $60 a bottle. And then we have some flashier wines. I work in putting together the lists. I generally work very, very closely with an old friend of mine named Eduardo Dingler, who's kind of a star of the wine world.
I was going to ask if you work with a song.
Yeah. So, and on the side, we used to work together. He was so formerly. About 10 years, I was business partners with Chef Morimoto, ran the Morimoto restaurant group, and Eduardo was our corporate beverage director. He still lives in Napa and now spends time judging wine and sake competitions around the world. And his day job, he
Did that for a job?
yeah. What are we doing? He's also VP of wine access. and so he and also his wife, Laura, they are phenomenal sommeliers, in addition to being very good friends. And so, been fortunate enough that they're still willing to assist me in putting together these lists.
How important is it for your staff to be acquainted with the wines that they have?
Well, it's very important because it's part of the service. I mean, we pride ourselves on providing high quality, at least we strive to provide high quality service at our restaurants. And it's critical that the servers have a very good knowledge of the whole beverage program, and know what wines are going to pair well with which dishes. Very, very important. And that, when somebody comes in, well, I like this kind of wine and so forth. And we don't have very many wines on our lists that, you're likely to find in supermarkets uh, and maybe your average local liquor store. I mean, we have some, but there are many that you might not be familiar with unless you have a more serious interest in wine. But that doesn't mean they're not approachable, delicious wines. So it's important for the team to really know how to work with those. We're very fortunate here in that the general manager of this restaurant, Piero Rodriguez, has many years of experience in the business as an advanced sommelier. So I believe we've got a team here that has some capability in the area.
Is it difficult for a Southwestern restaurant to sell wine, or I mean, is it more challenging than normal restaurants?
I mean, I guess, if you were comparing it to a very high-end French restaurant or maybe a steakhouse,
Okay.
maybe a little bit, but we sell a lot of wine
Okay.
at our restaurants. I think and that's part of it is we have, I believe, not to be boastful, but I think we have a high quality list that works very, very well with our food and has something for all different tastes on it. I mean, there are certain wines that I'm not huge fans of, but they're popular. So we should have them on our list. Yeah, they're not bad wines. It's just not my personal taste.
You said something on your menu, something with bone marrow, buttery.
Yeah. Those are our steaks. Our steaks are really delicious. We're not a steakhouse, but I will put the steaks at Tia Carmen against any steakhouse. They're just fantastic. They're served with bone marrow butter as well as a tempeh bean mole. So it's a mole, but we use tempeh beans, which are grown in the Pima Indian Reservation outside of Phoenix. So it's a heritage variety of bean that was brought back to life by a farm called Ramona Farms. And so it's a traditional mole in the sense of having, I don't know, Angelo would have to tell you, but 30 different ingredients in it. But the black tempeh beans are very prominent in it. So
Steak with the bone marrow.
it's bone marrow butter on top, and there's tempeh bean mole along the side. So there's a lot of rich stuff going
I
on.
can tell you, I had this aged mole here. Yeah, that's probably one of the best things I've ever had in my life.
Imagine Coos taking and dragging it into the mall.
That's exactly what you want to do.
And I'm assuming you're gonna want a big red.
I mean, you really ought to have a big red with that. So, I mean, talking about our deep variety of Napa cabs, those are obviously excellent pairings with that kind of a steak. We've got a couple of nice Brunellos on the menu, but it's personal taste. I mean, Pinot Noir is also fantastic with steak, right? We have Amarone. I mean, there are a lot. I mean, you don't want a wine that's just going to get run over by the steak, But I think, any of those big red wines, or I think the best place, if you really like oaky, buttery Chardonnay, probably the best food pairing with that is a steak.
I am hearing more people say, it's not the color of the wine, it's not the, it's whatever you're having and the acidity in it or what have you.
I mean, you need
Whites with beef.
absolutely. I mean, you need something. I mean, to that kind of a steak dish, you need something pretty full body to stand up to it. And honestly, I think those big buttery Chardonnays, they overwhelm a lot of food.
Yeah,
But a steak is something that they work really well with. So if you're not a red wine person, and some people get headaches from red wine and things like that, right? That is the place for one of those shards.
I don't pair my food with wine. I pair my wine with food.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, I really want to drink this wine tonight. What do we have in the fridge that's going to go with?
And that is a phenomenal approach that I fully endorse.
Well, I thank you so much for spending this time with us, giving us a little bit of your background, your philosophy, the whole Harvard thing. It was very nice. And Tia, so what's the best? How do we support you? How does Inside the Bunghole support you?
Well, please, whoever's listening to this, I guess you're spread far and wide.
Yes.
But I hope you have a chance for, number one, to come to Indian Wells, to the beautiful Coachella Valley. There's wonderful stuff going on all year round. And when you come here, you should stay at the Grand Hyatt Indian Wells and eat at Tía Carmen. And if you find yourself,
Stay anywhere else.
even if you stay somewhere else, come over to Tía Carmen no matter what.
Really good.
And likewise, if you're in the Phoenix area, Phoenix, Scottsdale, please come to Tía Carmen or Kambara there. Or if you're in Vail, to Makoto Vail or Knife Italian Steak in Dallas.
Pam and I have talked about this. We have ate in almost every restaurant in this town, in the Coachella Valley. We have picked this one to be the best food in this town.
Thank you so much.
The best food,
The staff.
amazing. Staff on par. And just so
That is wonderful to hear.
Coachella Valley.
When I was in your restaurant about 6 months ago,
Yeah.
I walked out and like, is reality TV catching up here? Or people, I felt like I was on a like everyone was so on spot.
It was a great. I've been here several times, and we have some friends that come here probably weekly.
But the staff is
And
Wonderful. I love our chefs.
said
here.
that's what
They're great. We've got a tremendous team here.
I am always right there. That's the way it should be.
Well, thank you so much.
Well-
And become a follower, become a believer.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!